Hey guys, it's King Kelly, founder of You, Me, and Jesus. Super excited to have you guys here with me, especially those of you guys that are catching this on the replay. If you're watching on the replay on Facebook or on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. You can always comment, like, subscribe, and share on the replay, and I'll get all your comment notifications, and I'll comment back to you if you ask a question. And so thanks so much for watching on the replay. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much. Make sure you subscribe. You guys can always catch me on YouTube at King Kelly 81. And after this broadcast, I want you to join us in our new Facebook group. It's about 300 of us in our new Facebook group that's called You, Me, and Jesus, where we're in there talking, learning, and growing in God together. All right. And we actually have a book club. And for the month of August, our book that we're reading is called God's Secrets by Sean Bowles. Sorry, it's a little greasy. My natural hair has oil, so hands are all over it. So we're reading this book called God's Secrets by Sean Bowles, and it's been amazing. For those of you guys that are in the group, I know you're like, dude, it's been amazing. So that's what we're doing. But tonight, thanks so much for watching. For those of you guys that are watching live, good evening. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to You, Me, and Jesus. I'm excited to have you here with me. If you wouldn't mind sharing this, I'm going to go ahead and share it real quick. Hang on just 1 second, and then I'll do a little bit of introduction, and I'll bring on our guest speaker for tonight. So give me... I do this every single time. There's all these new updates on my computer for social media sharing, and I always forget to not click on certain buttons, but give me just a second. I'm sharing this really quickly. All right. And I always say give me a second, but it really takes like 60 seconds. So while you're watching, if you wouldn't mind sharing this on Facebook, I'd appreciate it so much. All right. Hang on. I'm sharing it actually in my new Facebook group that's called You, Me, and Jesus. Okay. All right. So tonight and all the month of August and September, we are going through a series that's called Ministry in the Marketplace. Ministry in the Marketplace, where I've gotten together 10 of my personal friends that are business owners and love Jesus, right? You know, and when you love Jesus, you shout them from the rooftops, right? But I know that at times we find ourselves not wanting to talk about Jesus because we're like, but if I talk about Jesus, like, I'm not going to have a business. Nobody's going to want to buy from me. But that's not true. And so sometimes we find ourselves hiding Jesus to make money, you know, and you don't have to do that. Or you manipulate people into making them think you love Jesus and you really don't. You're just trying to get their money, which is not right. So we're doing a series that's called Ministry in the Marketplace, where me and all of my friends are coming on and we're just sharing how we are able to be ministers in the marketplace. And so last Sunday, you guys heard from a friend of mine, Nicole Walters of NicoleWalters.tv, where she spoke from the conversation of God loves relationships and how she uses relationships to build her business authentically. If you want to catch that full video, just go to my YouTube channel at King Kelly 81. And today, I'm excited. I have my personal mentor and friend, Mrs. Daphne Zuniga of DaphneZ.com. She's been extremely instrumental in my life. You know, we connected I think late last year from my other friend Nicole Cooper, of whom you'll hear from in the month of September. And I knew that Daphne had something that I needed. You know, I knew that she had a lot of experience. I mean, she's been a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, she's done some of the most amazing things, but she loves Jesus and she's building a strategic business, and she's been really helping me to make strategic decisions when I'm building my business. And so tonight, I wanted you guys to get an opportunity to hear from someone that I listen to, like I really glean from all the time, that is building businesses the God way and can teach you some things as well. She's the founder of DaphneZ.com, and also she is the author of a book called Take Me Deeper Still, which is a 40-day journey of a closer walk with God. Listen, we'll talk about this during the broadcast, but I tore this book apart. You hear what I'm saying? It was very instrumental in my journey the last year, last 6 months or so, and it's just really been a true blessing for me. Okay, so I'm trying to get Daphne invited in here. Hang on one second. She is out of her home in Austin, Texas, and so you guys get ready. You're gonna hear some amazing information tonight from my personal mentor, Daphne Z. And so if you want to connect with her after this broadcast, make sure you go to daphnez.com. But while you're here right now, we're getting her on. Make sure you go to kenyakelly.com and download the 15 scriptures to pray over your business. The 15 scriptures to pray over your business. I created that for you guys. Hey, Daphne!
Hey!
How you doing?
How are you?
I am good. I'm excited.
Great. How are you doing? Hey, everybody.
I'm doing good. Guys, so this is Daphne Z, Daphne Zuniga of DaphneZ.com. Also, the author of Take Me Deeper Still. And so, Daphne, I know we're super excited. For those of you guys that are here, make sure you guys tap your screen, give us some hearts, and share the broadcast. That way we can make sure we're connected with you guys all throughout this entire broadcast.
Sorry.
All right, guys. It's okay. So, guys, this is Daphne Zuniga, my personal mentor and friend. Daphne, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself the way that you introduce yourself, and then we'll just get this party started.
So really the way that I introduce myself is I am a accidental mentor, business, life, and marriage mentor. Nothing that I've done has been intentional, honestly, except growing businesses. I do that strategically, but really everything that I've done has been kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And in fact, whenever you publicized, she's ran multi-million-dollar businesses, I'm like, wow, I really have. That's weird.
yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can't wait to hear what God's going to say through me.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So anyway, it has been such an amazing journey. And I didn't go to school to become a CEO. My degree's in family studies. So that is quite another exciting run.
Wow.
Getting to come back around. Full circle.
So let's kind of talk about that. So you went to school and got a degree in family studies or what have you. How did you even get into the business arena?
Yeah, so it was, again, I really can't emphasize enough that it was accidental. I'm not one of those people that was born for business. I actually didn't even know what I was born for. The only reason I went to college was because I didn't have a choice. That was just in my family. You go to college, like it wasn't an option. And so I started in college, and really up until that point, I had been kind of floundering. I wasn't a great student in high school at all, like not at all. I really actually think I was in the bottom percentage, and my husband was in the top. And so, whenever I got to college, I had to work really, really hard in order to make it. I noticed that people would study a little bit and then go in and take a test, and they'd rock it. And for me, it was like writing things down, reading it, reciting it, putting it on a wall. I mean, I really had to work. I had to work hard. And so, but I fell in love with college. Because I realized that my dad wasn't wrong. He always told me, Daphne, once you apply yourself, you are going to do amazing things. And I was always like, apply myself? What does that even look like? I thought I was and so I started doing that, and I started really, really doing well. I mean, at college, I graduated probably with, I think I graduated at 3.4, which was pretty good because I worked and I took a lot of hours. One semester in particular, I took 21 hours and I did my practicum and I worked. I mean, I was all in. I was sold out. And so at the same time that I was going to school, like I said, I worked and I loved my job. And so I'm figuring out my degree was in family studies, like I said, and I loved my degree. I mean, everything about it. I couldn't wait to get to school to learn more, or to college to learn more. I couldn't wait for my classes to begin. We had group studies and I loved that. I mean, I was sold out, all in. And then I started working as a marketing director for leasing agent. It was really apartments. It sounds really good, but I just helped lease apartments. but I had a great title because, titles matter, I guess. Anyway, and so I started realizing that relationships, that I just, I had this thing where once I got to know people and really got to know them and listen to their stories and, really made that connection, that I could genuinely close the deal. Like they wanted to come to the apartment complex. They wanted an apartment. And so, that was pretty exhilarating as well.
Right.
And then I graduated. And literally whenever I graduated, I cried my eyes out because I really never thought that I was going to graduate college. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'd never really put that together. And then all of a sudden I'm faced with, not only did I graduate, but the management company that I was working with was so amazing. They transferred and promoted me to one of their complexes in Las Colinas and near Dallas. And I was just in awe. So I graduated, which wasn't, that was not even in the plan. It was accidental. And then I had a job, just because I had worked really hard, and they sat down and they wanted to make sure that I stayed with the company and, make sure that I was going to be taken care of. And so that's kind of how all of that happened. And then I worked there for a little while. Paul and I were engaged. My husband, Paul, we've been together for 31 years and married 24. And so we were engaged, and that's a whole nother great story. We have a marriage ministry because I almost really screwed that up, but we'll save that for another time. I know I talked about that on another thing, but anyway, so I got transferred and promoted, and I was there, and I really loved it. Our percentages were increasing. I could tell that hard work worked. And so I really put in a lot of hard work and diligence and all of that. But I was so homesick. I love my house. I love my parents. And I had a hard time even going to college so far away because I didn't want to be away from my parents. Even though Paul was up there, I was so, I'm attached to my parents. And Paul and I weren't married at that point. But anyway, so I looked at him and at Paul, and I was like, I can't live here anymore. I really need to be home. And so we drove home one weekend, and I told my dad, I said, I'm so homesick. I love my job, but I want to be back in Victoria. And so he said, well, I've got a few people that I want to introduce you to, and they've got some positions. And so I ended up getting a position back in Victoria. And so before Paul and I got married, we moved back to our hometown, which made it easier for the wedding too, anyway. So then after that, I got this particular job. What'd you say?
No, laughing.
So I got this job at, and I loved the job. It was a great job. But inside of me, it was weird. I knew that I was created for something different and something higher, something greater. Not that what I was doing wasn't great, because it was great, but it wasn't what I knew I was supposed to be doing. And so I remember thinking one day, I feel like a butterfly in a jar. And if I could just take the lid off, I could fly and do really incredible things. And so my dad, again, had a friend that was I think he was president of a board, and it was called Mid-Coast Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. And they were looking for a executive director, my dad told me. And I was like, Daddy, I don't know what that word means, but I think I was meant to do that. And so I got the interview, and it was in such terrible condition. I can't even begin to tell you what terrible condition it was in. I got hired because I had a pulse, really. It wasn't because I was, ready to do it. I had nothing. except my dad, who was the supervisor. And I think the guy that was the president of the board was like, okay, well, she may not be able to do anything, but I know what her dad's capable of because he's my
Right,
boss.
right.
And so I know that, like, if she can't figure it out, she'll ask him. And so we should be
Yeah.
okay. So I started that executive director. I had 3 employees. We owe $10,000 to the IRS. Our budget, our whole budget was $120,000. We had 3 employees, and then me, 4 employees on $120,000. We owed the IRS $10,000. We owed, I mean, I kept unearthing things, and and then I had this staff. I didn't know what do you do with people that are looking at you. I've never been a leader. I didn't even know I was going to graduate from high school, let alone college. I mean, who am I? And I'm leading these people, and I mean, literally, I'm 24 years old. And so I went into a staff meeting one time and told, well, actually, there was a staff meeting and they all kind of went crazy. Like they were, we need more pay, or we need whatever. I mean, just normal stuff. But I'd never heard anybody like push back on me. I mean, I'm the kind of boss that I just wanted to have fun, really. Let's have fun, and let's do our job and laugh a lot. But that's not the way it worked. So what they coming back at me, and rightfully so, right? I mean, I was the leader, and I didn't know how to lead. So I remember one time in particular, I went into my office and really kind of like got under the desk and called my dad, and I was like, Daddy, they're kind of being really mean. They want direction, and they're saying that I'm not giving them direction. Shouldn't they know what they need to do? And my dad said, listen, you need to take control of this situation. You need to, get them into your office, and you need to write them up and let them know that you are boss, that you have a plan and that they need to respect you. And I mean, I was like, I can do that? Oh my gosh. But I wanted to do it like he did. I mean, he had this command about him that was so loving and gentle, but yet firm whenever he needed to be. And so I wanted to be like that. And so I did that, and I mean, it turned around quick, and we just started growing, and I fell in love, literally in love with my job. Paul and I got married, a couple of years earlier, and he was totally in favor, or a year earlier, he was in favor of the job change, and he knew that the challenges that were going to come my way, but he was such a rock. I mean, he he helped me, and the business had like money from the state. And I'll never forget the first time I went to the state, they actually told me, we just need you to know that you are being hired to shut this business down. Literally, your job is to close this down. And I said, now, wait a minute, we have state funding. And they said, yes. And I said, and it comes not only from state, but also from other grants, like national grants. And they said, yes. And I said, and it has to go to, every dollar has to go to make sure that people in each community are reached. And they said, yes. And so I drove home, and I just really thought about that. And I thought about the fact that people needed the service. And I think that's where my grit came in. I thought, there is no way that I'm going to allow this business to be closed down. There's no way. I'm going to fight like nobody's ever fought for. And I'm going to show them that not only is our business going to be put on the map in, our little hometown, but I wanted to be put on the map in our region, and then in the state, and then I had national goals. I didn't want to just go in and close it down. I wanted to just, rise above it. And it was a great business. It really, we helped a lot of people. And I wanted to not only do what we had done, but I wanted to expand. And by God's grace, really, that is really the only thing that got us through, because I didn't know what I was doing. God's grace and a lot of prayer. But even at that time, I was a churchy girl. I didn't have a relationship with Christ. And so, but I'd draw him down, you know, boy, if I was having a bad day, I'd be like, Jesus, take the wheel. You're going to have to help me. But I didn't have
Yeah.
that relationship, right? But we started growing the business. I mean, the business started growing, and I learned how to be a leader, and I loved leadership. I loved the orchestration of putting people together. I felt like it was a symphony, and our team was growing. And as people would do what they needed to do, what they were hired to do, and do it with excellence, things started turning around, and people started coming to us and asking us to merge with them. And we were getting funding from a lot of different places. And it was an amazing time. It was a time where I learned, I found the love that I had for business and people and relationships. And but I was sacrificing at home. And so that was, I didn't have that down. And so when Paul and we separated, in 2001, and I learned the love of the Lord and the difference that he really made. Like, he wasn't just something to draw down when you were in times of trouble, because he is there, right? He's what you need him to do, but he is there always, and he wants to help me guide this business. And so I really began at that point to rethink how I did things. And I started to strategize, but not strategize on Daphne's terms. I went to the Lord, and it was a really exhilarating time. So not only was I allowed, not only did he give me the grace to have my marriage back, but he gave me this amazing ability to really strategize and look for ways to grow a business. And so we went from $120,000 whenever I first walked in to over $3.2 million. And I'm serious whenever I tell you it was not me. It was it was a lot of my dad. It was a lot of Paul. It was everyone. The team was amazing. People, I don't even know why they put up with me as a young boss, but they did. And so it was really by God's grace. And so I learned a lot during that time. But so it was, you can see, I was an accidental. It went from executive director until then turned into CEO because of the status of the business.
Wow. So that was what year was that started?
So I started as CEO in 1994, I believe. And then in 2001, when Paul and I went through our separation, and then, that really kind of helped me reshift my thinking and get things in order, really getting God first, Paul second, and then everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you guys that are watching this broadcast, somebody said it earlier that it was encouraging to her to hear this, that it could be an accidental success. It could be an accidental kind of jump into business. And so if you're watching this broadcast and you're saying to yourself, "Whoa, I love God and I have a job and I want to create something," Daphne is one of the perfect examples of, well, when you begin to yield yourself to the Lord, he will give you, like the Bible says, he'll give you creative ideas and strategies, right? That's what he does. And so, but he gives them to you because you're talking to him, because you can hear him. Not because you're perfect, because nobody's perfect. It's because you're having a conversation with him on a regular basis. And when he gives you something, you say, "Oh, that's you. What do you want me to do with it?" And then you begin to strategize with him on it. So she's like the perfect example. As she said, she was 24 years old, executive of a company, turned CEO, with these people looking at her and her like, "Daddy, help me," to now she's doing some of the most amazing things, and she's mentoring like tons and tons of people. And I'm sure eventually it'll be thousands and maybe even millions if that's God's plan. And so, Daphne, I want to get into because we had talked a couple weeks ago about being strategic in your business, right? And so, of course, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so at the end of the year, I want to earn this, in 5 years this, in 10 years this, because I want to be with my family, yada, yada, yada. But your approach is a little different. And you said my approach is different. And I want you to talk to not just me, but those here, because this is Ministry in the Marketplace on You, Me, and Jesus. And we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching this either live on the replay, and they have their plan, they have their goals and their way they do things. But I want you to share with them what you shared with me. And if these were all your mentees, how would you guide them and teach them during, like, here?
Yeah. Okay. So let me just fast forward really quickly to how I got to be a mentor and business, life, and marriage mentor. So I in 2003 we had Avery, our second child, and we decided that I was going to stay home, so I was going to retire from being the CEO, and I stepped into a consulting job and business that I created. And one of the people that I was consulting with on one of her projects was the CEO of the Woodhouse Day Spa. And my absolute honor with her was to just pray for her. That's all. I mean, I was helping her work on a new model that she was creating, but my number one job was to pray for her. And so every Friday, I called it my Fast, Pray, and Praise Friday for the CEO. And we would sit down with our agenda, and it was literally such an honor to pray for her because, in business, you need a lot of prayer, and you need a lot of people surrounding you that will pray for you and that will believe with you and believe all of these big, hairy, audacious goals that you have, because that's what a business does, right? And so anyway, I started praying for her, and I didn't, once again, this accidental thing, accidental. I love the Lord because he allows me to think that it's accidental. So accidentally, I got to be the MC, the Master of Ceremonies for their big conference. And I just fell in love with every single one of the people that I met, that were in this Woodhouse system. It's just an amazing model. It's an amazing business. And the people, I fell in love with them. And so accidentally, we were able to purchase one in Austin, here in Austin in 2011. And I knew that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing for us, just because I knew that I was in this system to walk alongside the CEO. I mean, I was consulting with her not very long ago, and I said, my job with the Woodhouse has always been to be your prayer warrior and to help you, come alongside you with regards to just prayer and holding her hand. I call myself her Aaron, Moses and Aaron, and Aaron had to hold Moses' hand up during the battle, and so that was such a big honor to me. But I knew that we would be selling. I didn't know that it was going to come as quickly as it did, but Paul and I both felt like God was calling us out of that to create a business mentoring, but really more of marriage mentoring and life mentoring. And so that's kind of how we got to that point. So we had the big honor of owning the Woodhouse Day Spa, and it's an amazing model. So it did really well, and we stepped out of that in 2015. And then we stepped into our mentoring business. And so since that time, and I learned so much during that time at the Woodhouse, because they are all about strategy. I mean, they are all about vision. They're all about growth. They're about so many things that I needed to know. And my sister now is an owner of a Woodhouse here in Cedar Park, Texas. She's opening it, and it should be open in September. So I'm super excited. And so it's still in the family, and I love it. I mean, I absolutely love the brand. So anyway, fast forward, and I felt like the Lord was saying, what I want you to do is I want you to work with businesses now, given what you did, as CEO, and then as an owner, and all of these strategies that you had to put into place in order to keep growth, moving, to keep moving. And I want you to work with people. And I just always felt like he was saying, I want you to work with world changers. I want you to work with people that love me. But I want you to do it differently. I want you to do it where their relationship with me is number one. And then, if they're married, that their marriage is number two. So I work on the relationship with Christ first and make sure that that's really heavy, very strong. Then we work on the relationship in their marriage if they are married. And then we work on business. And so we really strategize to make sure that the marriage, that the relationship with Christ is strong, the marriage is strong, and we, and families are strong, because you can't do business if you are married and with outside of, it's just not going to work. It's going to be very hard. And so we've had truly it's been a privilege to watch people go from thinking that they're going to walk in and work with me and go, I need to make such and such amount of money, or I need to do this, and actually not just walk away with that, but more importantly, with this holistic relationship approach. And then we get into strategies. And I love, whenever I think about strategies, I like to work in, there are 4 different quadrants that I like to say that we work in. So we work in spiritual first, that relationship. I know you talked about my book, and that's been a really huge thing for me. And yes, and I can't wait to hear all about how it impacted you. And because, we published it with the expectation that God was going to use it to draw people deeper in a relationship with him. Because we know that whenever you have that deep relationship with him, he's going to breathe into you what he wants you to do. And then we get to lean in and be part of that to help people go to that next level. And so that spiritual is very, very, very important. We also really try to strategize on your physical, figuring out, how are you sleeping? How are your eating patterns? How are you exercising? Your physical body is the body that is the temple of the living God. And so if it's broken down in any way, it's going to prevent your success. It's going to prevent you from living in the abundance that God expects us to be in. So, we work goals in that area too. So we're working first in the spiritual goals, and then we're working next in the physical goals, and then we're working in relational goals. And so we're working, and it's funny because I really I had a lot of quiet time with the Lord, and he won. But I was like, well, why wouldn't relational go before physical? It seems to me that your relationships are most important. And I remember the Spirit of the Lord, I felt like it was breathed upon me, just saying, no, without your physical body being healed and getting that temple ready to go, you can't serve anybody else. This is so overused, but it's a great word picture. Whenever you're in the airplane and you're supposed to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on somebody else, it's the same thing. You've got to get to you first, and then, your relationship. And then the final quadrant, which is usually pretty surprising to people, is professional. So it isn't the first that we work on. It's never the first that we work on. We're working on spiritual goals. We're working on physical goals. We're working on relational goals. And then we're working on the final thing is your professional goals. And so that's where, I love to live. I love to live there, because that means that the other 3 quadrants are they're strong and they're going really well. And then, so whenever we get into the professional, that's when we dive deep into goals and objectives. And I love a 90-day year. I like to say we're planning our year out 90 days at a time, because I think that it kind of you can really look at it. And I like 7-day push goals or 5-day push goals, whatever you're, however you want to look at it. Being able to set out and say, okay, in the next 5 days, so in 90 days, I want 10,000, Facebook fans or whatever, your one big, hairy, audacious goal is. And then what is that falling under? And it's so fun because right now I'm having to live all of these goals and things because we're creating this amazing ministry to reach the masses. And so I'm getting to live what I teach, which is so God, right? It's really frustrating sometimes. Like, are you serious? I'm the teacher. And so I'm not supposed to be the student, but the teacher is a student first.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I get to teach everything I'm learning. It's really great.
Yeah.
But so, it's kind of a different way to grow.
Sorry. So if you guys have questions for Daphne while she's talking, I want you to go ahead and just put them in the comments. That way, if we do get to the Q&A part, we already kind of have them there. So go ahead and begin to ask your questions of her. But guys, this is You Being Jesus. We are talking tonight about creating strategic businesses with Daphne Zuniga of DaphneZ.com. She's also the author of this book that I have read called Take Me Deeper Still. I've been talking about it a little bit on Facebook for a while and in my group, and so we'll get to reading it soon, but she's definitely the author of that. You guys can find it on Amazon.com. But tonight she's talking about how differently, how we look at it when we are Christians, when we serve God and we are in business. There's a different way to look at things. Sometimes, in the world we find ourselves like she was talking about, our business being first, our money being first. And then we neglect ourselves. And so we experience burnout. We neglect our kids, and our kids are, acting out because they want mommy and daddy. And then we start having problems in our marriages or our relationships because we're putting everything's just completely out of whack. And then we're wondering, why can't I hear God? And it's not because God isn't talking. It's because everything else in our lives are so loud that God's like, I'm not going to compete with it. I'm still talking, but you've got to clear the clutter so you can hear me. And so this is what Daphne is talking about tonight in terms of strategic businesses, because it's important, because the Bible does talk about, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. But I tell people all the time that God is a good father. He's not going to just take $40 million and deposit it in your Wells Fargo account. It doesn't really work that way, right? Now, he can do it, clearly, water and the wine, but he typically will give you a creative idea, a strategy that you can put into place, something you can create. And so Daphne today is giving you a strategic plan on how to go about this. Now, she is going to give you guys the opportunity to be able to work with her. Because I build brands, and she's helping me build a business. So there is going to be an opportunity. You can go to DaphneZ.com and you can get information about that. But she'll talk about that in just a little bit. But Daphne, I want you to, just continue talking about, let's just say who's here. Sherry Atkins. Sherry Atkins is here right now. And let's just say she has a business. Clearly, she has some sort of relationship with Jesus because she's here. What would you, if you were talking to Sherry today, what would be, let's just say, 3 questions you would ask Sherry? Because I know some folks are like, well, what? I don't get it, or what? So if you were sitting right there, because Sherry's here, say hi, Sherry. What 3 questions would you ask her initially? And then why would you ask her those?
Okay, so one thing before I answer that question is that probably about 6 months before I knew that we were going to sell the spa, I read 2 very significant books, very pivotal, like really profound books for me. Mm-hmm. One of them was John Maxwell's Intentional Living. Mm. And then the second one was Chasing Daylight. And I apologize, I can't remember who that one was by, but I'll look it up. Chasing Daylight. And so the premise of intentional living that hit me so hard was living, instead of chasing success, chasing significance. Mm-hmm. And in my life, that's really all I want to be. I we had this discussion last night with our son, and because he's 19, and we're really trying to coach him right now and saying, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And I asked him, I said, at your funeral, what do you want people to say about you? That's a really important thing. And so, that's one thing that got me to being able to work. So I would ask Sherry, what do you want people to say at your funeral? Because chasing daylight then, so intentional living was the first one.
Yeah.
Looking at success and instead replacing it for me with significance. That was the first one. The second one was chasing daylight. And what happened in chasing daylight, we're at this age where, and we're in this stage of life where, so many people are looking to, how are we going to retire? And what are we going to do? When we retire, we will be able to, go out on walks, and we'll be able to do all of these things. Yeah. And so this CEO, or I think he was an accountant, if I'm not mistaken, he owned a huge accounting firm. And it was such a beautiful twist of things. He actually ended up dying in the middle of writing the book. And he found out that he had a tumor. It's fabulous. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it will absolutely make you think, because he was working on the end in the middle. He was worried about retirement when he should have been living every day. And that's what he said, I miss so much. So for me, whenever I work with someone, I want to sit down with them and I want to think about the end. What do you want to do? What's your goal? What do you feel like you're called to do? What is it that you feel like is just burning inside of you? What keeps you up at night? And with so many of the people that I work with, the beginning that I work with them, because we're working on their spiritual goals first, doesn't end up most of the time being what they're going to end up doing. In fact, right. I've enjoyed the journey of so many people really discovering their true self and their calling, which is sometimes a very elusive thing. You're like, I don't know what my calling is. Well, I promise right. you, once you step into your relationship with Christ, he will reveal. There are patterns, there are words, there are things that he gives you that I promise you will reveal. And so that spiritual walk is my number one thing that I would want to talk to Sherry about. Where is your walk? Tell me about your walk. And I don't mean what church do you go to. That's very right. important. And I love church. Thankful that we have a great church to serve, and I want everyone to get into their church, because that is where you can begin to find out who you are and who God wants you to be. And it also helps your relationship, but it's so much more than that. This and for me, again, I had to stumble and figure it out for myself, and that I learned as Paul and I separated that my quiet time is sacred time. It's time where the Lord breathes into me, not only what I'm going to do for that day, but what I'm going to do for a lifetime. What I'm going to do for that week, what I'm going to do for that month, what I'm going to, I'm getting ideas for businesses that we're working, people that we're working with on their businesses. And so that time for Sherry would be so important, that we have, that we carve out that quiet time. And we talk about that relationship and what does that look like? But so many people will come and they're like, well, I've got to pay my bills. I mean, that's all good and fine, but I've got to pay my bills. I don't have time to go through all of this strategizing. Why? And, I think that is such a, it's underestimating yourself and the power of longevity and the long haul. You're in it for the short, and I want to work with people that are for the long. What are you going to do long term? I get it. We all have to make our ends meet, of course, but that long term significance, where are you going to be? What is it that's going to make you significant? And so, and what are you called to do? And so the businesses that I work with, I want to make sure that they have that end in mind. And so out of that has come, I won't mention any names. I have several, of really amazing stories, obviously, but one stands out in my mind right now in particular. It's a young artist that I have the beautiful opportunity to have walked alongside for a really long time. And she, I remember one of our sessions, and it started out with me talking with her just about, number one, her spiritual walk, and then, just she was pretty newly married, no children. And so we really worked on relationships at that point,
Right.
and so all of our conversations started off as that. And then I started talking to her about that significance and making a difference and what is it that you're called to do. And I'm telling you, it was the craziest thing. She immediately in the next really quickly quiet time, she was given this idea of a nonprofit. And I'll never forget, she sat down and she goes, I think I'm supposed to start a nonprofit. And I was like, I love nonprofits. This is so good. What is it? She told me what it was for. It was, and it's an amazing nonprofit making a tremendous difference now. And so to me, what I want people to do is look at it for the long haul. Don't look at it for tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's very important and today's very important. Do your best that you can do today. I want you to really live in the moment and do your best. Do everything that you do with excellence. But I love strategy. I love planning, and I know the Lord loves to give us downloads. And so, that's just one amazing one. There are many. I want to work with people that want to be major givers. So yes, you're going to have this wonderful, successful business. And but let's work on how we can actually what are we going to do once we become that millionaire? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to make a difference in society, in the world? What are you called to do with that? And so that's really fun because all of the people that I mentor are major givers. They live to give. In fact, most of them want to live on 20 and give 80. That's our goal. Live on 20% of their income and give away 80. What a beautiful goal, and make a huge difference with that giving. Not just, worry about, oh, I have this great car and I have this great house. Well, who really cares? We're in the life-saving business. And so anyway, love it.
Yeah. So guys, I told you guys about her book a couple times during the broadcast. And so one of the things she talked about was having that quiet time, right? And so I'll just keep it all the way real, right? So you spend your whole life in church and you hear the pastor or whomever talk about this quiet time. And so you find yourself sitting there with the Bible and you're like, looking at the Bible and you're like, and you're flipping through like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, like, dude, they all say the same thing. Why didn't they just make one book together? Right? Or you're in Genesis or you're in Revelation and you're like, right? And, so you find yourself like having a tough time having what we call a quiet time. But Daphne talked about just how important it is, right? And so I'll just share for me. So my whole life, I've always heard about the quiet time and I desired quiet time. I tried to read the Bible for so many years, but it just wasn't connecting. I've got all types of versions, the King James, the New Living, all types of versions, right? And it was just like, it just wasn't doing it for me. And it wasn't like the words in the Bible. It was just something wasn't connecting for me. And I just kept crying out to God and crying out to God, God, I want to read your word, right? Because one of the things that for me is that, I know that I'm blessed with a bunch of gifts, right? All types of gifts, right? And they're cool and all, prophecy, healing, all types of stuff. They're cool and all, but for me, I got to a point where I was just like, but God, I don't want to just rest on the gift. I don't want to just like do these things because it's a gift. I want to understand what he's saying in the Bible. Like, I want to be everything you want me to be. I want to be a teacher and a doer of the word, right? And so I just kept crying out to God, crying out to God, you've got to help me understand this Bible. And so I would cry out, then I would open the Bible and I would still say, I'm not getting it, right? But I would keep crying out, never stop. And I would keep saying, I'm not getting it. And then Daphne introduced me to her book. And one of the things that you guys know about me, if you follow me for a while, I teach the way that I talk, right? If I preach on stage, I'm going to preach the same way that I talk. I'm sorry. I'm not going to leave out you're never, well, from, I don't know what stage in my life, but you probably will not see me pull out the King James Bible and do a preaching. You just won't. You just probably won't. I'll probably be in the New Living. Just me. But we'll see what happens as I mature, right? And so I was looking for something that could help me where I was, right? And not where people thought I was, but where I knew that I was. And so when I started reading Daphne's book, all I could do was laugh, right? Because Daphne's book, it sounds exactly the way that she talks. But Daphne is very, like, you haven't got the comedic relief out of her tonight's broadcast, but like we're really a whole lot alike, right? So when her and I are talking, I'm always like, really? Why is she acting like me? And so the way that Daphne talks, I mean, she could be corporate, she could be King James, she could be Bernie Mac. I mean, for real. If you really get on a good day, she could be Bernie Mac. And so her book really read like, what'd you say?
I said, girl, it's true.
It is very true. So her book read like Billy Graham. It read like Jim Carrey, and it read like Bernie Mac. I mean, it really did, right? And she was just so real, so honest, and I was able to connect with the characters in the Bible, right? I remember reading it each day, and I would get sad that my day was over. Like, I was like, well, I don't want to go to day 2 because I'm going to ruin it for tomorrow, right? And I remember when I got to, my favorite one I always remember was when I got to whatever day it was, and it talked about David. You know, people always talk about David and Goliath. And I was like, okay, to do with the slingshot, whatever. But it wasn't until I started really, really reading David's story, and I fell in love with the character David. Like, wow, this dude up and down, you know, all the stuff that he experienced. And I was able to begin to connect with the Bible, right? And so now I read every day. I just bought a new Bible. It's the Living Spirit-Filled Life Bible, something like that. It's an amazing Bible. But I'm able to connect. Now, don't get it twisted. My name ain't T.D. Jakes. I'm not the way, I don't do all that, right? But I am connecting with the Bible more than I was the last couple of years. And so I'm saying all that because when we talk about the quiet time, it's not that you have to be there for an hour. It's not you got to be there for 2 hours, but you have to start somewhere, right? And I have, because of my personal life, and you know, I'm always teaching you guys or whatever, I realize that I'm always being pulled on, right? Like even during this broadcast, I got emails coming in, text messages coming in, and I had to say to myself, well, when is my time when nobody can bother me, right? When I can talk to God about, he may talk to me back or whatever, where I am just there and I can just be, right? And I really have enjoyed spending my time in the Bible and with my time in God in the morning because, you know, I always say it's hard out here for a pimp, right? You know, it's not easy, you know, to build a business, to do a ministry, to live life and to love people and love yourself. It's not easy, but when you're able to spend just a little bit of time, whether it's 30 minutes or 60 minutes with God, it really does change your day. It changes your life. And then because we're talking about businesses, it changes your business. Like I can't even begin to tell you. I remember one day, I think I was reading her book and I had asked God a question. I need help with this. And when I finished, I put some clothes in a washer. And before I could even get them in there, he had answered my question. And I was like, oh, snap. It was an amazing answer to a question that I had. And so my whole point in that whole long thing is if you're looking for a way to connect with God, you know, one-to-one where there's nobody like all on you or whatever, I would encourage you to go to Amazon.com and get her book. It's called Take Me Deeper Still. Of course, her name, you see it here, is Daphne Zuniga, Daphne Zuniga. And I promise you, it'll really bless you guys. And so I think I saw a question here from, was it Kathy Nakia? She said, did you fast during the time of your seeking?
Oh, I love fasting and praying. I didn't understand what that looked like for a long time. But I started I started just skipping a meal. And so, yes, I believe in fasting so much. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be hard, but it's a discipline. So disciplines are not easy.
Yeah.
You
No.
know,
Right.
but skipping a meal is a way to begin. I have been on a 3-day fast before. I try to start off every new year. So usually every 90 days, I'll go on a fast, like an afternoon fast or a day, like a Friday. I'm a Friday fast girl. And so I'll fast and I'll have the questions that I need to ask the Lord. You know, what do you need me to do for this person that I'm working with or this particular situation? Because we're not just working with businesses, we're working with marriages that are on the brink of divorce. And so it's such an honor to work to call upon his name and fast and pray. And in the Bible, it doesn't say if you seek, you know, if you pray, if you fast. It says when you fast and pray, when you fast and pray. And so definitely, if you have something that you are really, or like you're trying to go to that next level, I absolutely am a huge advocate for fasting. And I like to bring my girlfriends along with me, my husband along with me, my family along with me. I like a corporate fast, especially on big things that are going to make a huge impact. I love for people to come along with me. So if you're really struggling with something, business or otherwise, definitely go on that fast. And please, 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 I'd love to hear from you. You can actually, I'm going to give you my personal email. I've got two. You can do daphne.zuniga@gmail.com, daphne.zuniga@gmail, or you can do daphne@daphnez.com. Either way will get to me. I check, well, both of them come in. So either way is great. Anything about that, fasting, praying, business, marriage, spirituality, you know, your walk with Christ, physical, all of those things are really passionate. I always thought that I had to be good at one thing. And I've noticed in our lives that God gives us kind of multiple opportunities. So I like to make sure I don't box myself in. You know, marriage ministry is something we do multiple times a day. You know, we work with multiple marriages, people that are going through hard times in their marriage. But I, at the same time, get to work with multiple businesses a day. And so it's I love that. I love that. And just life issues, you know, hey, I've got this child thing. Well, I have a couple of those, so I can help out.
Yeah. So that's a good question to keep.
But I appreciate all of.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, I appreciate all of your words, Kenya, about the book and how it touched you. I loved getting to listen to you so many of the mornings as you were going through it, and you know, saying, "Oh my gosh, you called me out on this," or "God really spoke to me through this," and I love that you're one big thing, and I think it's going to be with you for the rest of your life is David's story, and you're going to be able to apply that in multiple places, not just in business but in life, and because I mean, he's a great person to be able to model after. Right? Yeah. He was such a servant. I love that God gave you that. He's such a personal God. And, you know, in the book, Take Me Deeper Still, was such I'm an accidental, I accidentally wrote a book. It wasn't that we set out to. I wanted to learn the Bible. I wanted to be knowledgeable. I wanted to figure out, you know, all the books of the Bible. I wanted to know from Genesis to Revelation. And that's what it is. It's not a deep dive into the Bible, but it's a deep dive for you to go into it. And so it's taking you deeper still, taking you on this wonderful journey, you know, of learning more about David, and then stopping and going, what are you trying to say to me, Lord? What do you have for me in this moment? you're trying to tell me something. Thank you. So
Yeah,
it was an accidental
absolutely.
author.
I told her the other day, I can't wait for her to write the next book. I told her that while I was reading the book, I was getting sad because I was like, well, what am I going to read next? What next? And so I'm looking forward to not only reading the book with you guys in our group, but also the next thing she's got. I don't know what God's got coming for. I ain't trying to prophesy and say she got another book coming because I ain't hearing that. But if she does, I look forward to it because this one, it was really good for me. It was really, it blessed me a lot, right? And so, and Nakia, I'll also say to you regarding fasting, I find myself fasting maybe every 6 months or so. And, although it's challenging, whether it's food or it's TV or whatever, I find that life gets so much, it's just different every time I do it. Like I did a 30-day no TV fast, and I was like going to sleep at like 4 o'clock. I'm just kidding, because I had nothing to do, But I found myself saying, let me go to Streams Ministries and let me go see what's their new video of today, like the Jesus stuff, or listening to this, or being more productive in my business, or being intentional with my life. And I just think about how so many things in my life has changed because of not only fasting, but choosing to get closer to God on purpose. And I'll say that it may feel a little weird. Some of you guys are watching this and you're not used to getting this close to God. And it may feel a little weird to be singing in your house, or, you may even have to change your church. You know what I mean? Because you are you may begin to experience God in a way that nobody else is experiencing him. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing. It's not to make you that you're better than anybody. It just means that you're experiencing God in a new way. And if you want more of God, he's going to give you more of him. You know what I mean? And so not only for your personal life, but for your business, like he will begin to give you people to talk to. The other night, and I need to call her when we get off of this, I woke up in the middle of the night and one of my clients' names just kept ringing in my head. And I was like, why am I thinking about this client, And I texted her and said, hey, what's going on? You're in my dreams. What's going on? What's going on with you? You ain't got to tell me details. And when she told me all the details, I said, oh my God. But the only reason she was even willing to tell me that because she knew I love Jesus and Jesus was all in my business. So whether you like him or not, that's my people's, you know what I mean? And so my clients, I do client calls all the time. And at the end, when I'm getting ready to say, all right, talk to you later, a client will say, can you pray for me? I'm like, sure. Like, you're just amazed. But they're thinking, of course I'm going to ask you to pray for me. You're the Jesus girl. Like, hello, But I'm learning to expect it. I'm like, oh, yeah. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And so, Daphne, I know we're getting at the hour or maybe past the hour. What would you share with everyone here? They're saying to themselves they're an entrepreneur. They want to invite God more into their business. What would you advise them to do, now?
So I think now don't give up. First of all, it's hard. Business is hard. It's not going to be easy. You stay the course. Sit down. I think the best thing that you can do is just sit down and figure out, what do you want to do? Okay. So it's the end of your life. And we've gone to several funerals recently, and it's really impacting me in a profound way, especially how I deal with people, because I really do want them. I want you to think about, when it's your funeral, what do you want people to say? And I made the determination a long time ago that I wanted people lined up out the door to stand up and say, Daphne, because of her love, Daphne helped me fall in love with Jesus because she fell in love with Jesus. She helped me live a life on purpose. And so I want you to really sit down and get yourself into that quiet place and get into the Word. God's Word is alive and it's active. And when people tell you that you don't have a manual, they lied. They're liars. Right. We have the best ever. It's amazing. It's an amazing manual, and it's full of amazing leadership. I'll tell you, in business, the one book that I'm more inspired by than any other book, just me personally, is Nehemiah. I love Nehemiah. That's not the book that I have as the one that the Lord gave me this particular year. It's Ezekiel 37, the dry bones, because we've got to create this army. But Nehemiah is my go-to guy, because he was burdened for something. God gave him a burden, and he didn't just sit back. And God gave him a strategy. If you want to learn the best strategy in the world about how to do your business, read Nehemiah and then close it and say, okay, Lord, what do you have for me? You had everything planned out for Nehemiah, and you gave him everything that he needed, and he did it in record time. And that's who God is. He's going to help you do things in record time. But I would love the opportunity to strategize with anybody that's watching. Email me. Definitely go onto our website and sign up for our email list. I would love to get you on that. We are ramping up, and Kenya, as you know, we are kind of working on our second book, Strategic Marriage. It's not going to be necessarily a book, although we do have a publisher that's working alongside us. But it is going to be not just for married couples. It is a beautiful book on strategizing your marriage. But even if you're not married, you're going to get a lot of richness out of just the strategy part. We love strategizing. I love it. I mean, I am that. I have that mind. So I would love the opportunity to work with you. And really, you can go onto our website, or daphnez.com, or email me directly, daphne@daphnez.com, or you can email my Gmail, which is always good, daphne.zuniga@gmail.com. I would love the opportunity just to visit with you, but just a 15-minute visit to find out where your business is. And then we can, set up a strategy session if you think that, I'm a good fit. But just now, I'm not going to just work on professional. I mean, that's one component of four really important things. So.
Yep. Amen. So guys, again, if you guys want to, a free 15-minute session is huge. For those of you guys that don't know, I do them, and people get a lot out of them initially. And so here she is. She's built she was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. She started at 24 as whatever, and then has done some of the most amazing things. And so I would encourage you guys to definitely go to daphnez.com and then contact her so you get at least get a 15-minute consultation. Because I mean it may be nothing, it may be everything, but you never know if you don't contact her. And then I encourage you guys, if you're trying to get closer with God and trying to figure out how in the world to begin reading the Bible, I would encourage you to get her book, Take Me Deeper Still by Daphne Zuniga. You can get it on Amazon.com. And so also, you guys, we created a downloadable PDF for you, which is 15 scriptures to pray over your business. If you want to get those, you can just go to KiaKelly.com. But with that, you guys, Daphne, I'm so grateful for you. I know that I'm a handful, to say the least, and I'm so grateful for our relationship. And how much you helped me and are walking the journey with me. And guys, I'll tell you guys this: there's nothing more powerful than somebody who has already walked the walk. I think about her journey of where she was and how she was, and every time she talks about that, I'm like, I cannot believe that was you, because I'm looking at her like, I'm walking alongside somebody who has already walked the journey that I'm walking. And it's so comforting. It's so reassuring to know that I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that has gone through this and has gone through this transformation and is going through this process, because the process with God is nothing to play with. So I'm so grateful to have her. So if you're looking for somebody to walk along a journey with you, my number one recommendation would be Daphne. That's why I have her here on the broadcast for you guys. So make sure you go to daphnez.com. You want to connect with her? Clearly, her name is in the description. You can click and you can connect. She has a Facebook group, and there's all types of stuff. So just go to daphnez.com to connect and make sure you get your 15-minute session. So Daphne, you have anything else for the group?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone. Thank you, Kenya. It's such an honor to walk alongside you and watch all that the Lord is doing in and through you, and the bold move of doing this you, me, and Jesus. I mean, that's a big deal, getting that out there. And you know, one of my favorite things, and I tell you this all the time, my favorite thing about you, Kenya, is that you just show up. You just show up. And so that is really, if there's anything to leave everyone with, just show up. Just show up. Everything that you do it. Just show up, and God's going to show off, no doubt. And so if you don't mind, I'll just say a quick prayer.
Yes, okay.
Lord God, thank you so much for the opportunity to come before your throne of grace and mercy. And I just feel your hand laid on all of the listeners that are out there and people that are able to watch on this Facebook Live. And I just ask you to do amazing things in their lives, Lord, in their business. Draw them close to you, Lord. Draw them to you and reveal things that you hadn't revealed to them before. Do amazing things, Lord. You have called us to have abundant fruit. And so, Lord, prune all of the things in our lives that are not growing, that are not allowing us to grow fruit. And just help us to grow abundant fruit that grows to you, that grows richly, and let us make a tremendous impact on this world. In your name, it's in your Son's name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So guys,
all right.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight for You, Me, and Jesus. Make sure you connect with her by going to daphnez.com. And if you want the 15 scriptures to pray over your business, you can find them at kenyakelly.com. So with that, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.